Story time with your boy Uncle Sino. Now let's go to story time. Who's up for a story? Things aren't always what they seem. A lot of y'all don't remember the 1980s. But let me take you to the 1980s Chicago. Maxwell Polishes, Harold's Chicken, and it was really Harold's. Where people would beat you up if they saw you doing dope. People used to hide to smoke weed. It was something that was embarrassing in the 1980s. Was good, was good, was good. It was not something that you could ever imagine. Right? Now in 1988, right, it was the anti-fight against drugs. It was, red, black, and green. All the brothers were united, right? But in just 2 years later, 1989 hits, and it's a whole new world. By next year, 1989, there was a big influx of drugs to come through the Chicagoland areas, and it was called crack. Crack came through like a bomb in 1989. So the crack epidemic came through and decided it was going to start tearing up the city. Now, once people started cooking it up, it became way crazier than something anyone could ever imagine. Before, people was just doing blow, it was parties and all of these things, right? Then, the diesel, the air came in to effect. That was far few and in between of those people doing that. That started to ramp back up. Opioids was going through the roof. Now people are trying to find out what the hell is going on here. How is this becoming a thing? So crack became the new drug of choice. Very inexpensive, but also very, profitable for those who was in charge of running it. Now, people were in search for how this leak was getting into the city. The mayor and all these other people there, they're like, we got to put an end to this crack, and crack is whack. And they getting people on TV. Yo, if you was somebody offers you crack, what do you say? That is whack. They had all the little kids on there, and they had some weird dude coming up in a trench coat offering kids crack. I'm like, when do they ever offer? Is that how they think it goes down in the streets? People just walking up to little kids in a playground. They don't have any money. They're not going to get them crack. So, right, they got some generic rap song out about crack. They had no idea what was going on. So they had a task force put together to try to stop the crack. So they had this task force, and they had this guy who was in charge of running it. This guy named Jack O'Malley. Back, Jack. Yeah. Bring Jack back. Jack O'Malley. So Jack O'Malley was really pushing it with the mayor at that time. And the mayor, I believe, was Eugene Sawyer, who was filling in for mayor because Harold Washington died. So we had Eugene Sawyer, I believe, as the mayor at that time. And he had no control over the city. It was a free for all. And now, all hell's breaking loose because you have everyone jockeying for position, politicians, judges, everybody fighting with each other to see who's going to be in control of the city. Meanwhile, the drugs is flowing in heavy and they have no control over how the drugs are getting in here and where how these areas are getting infused. They had no idea. They went and shook down all the major drug dealers in the city. They went to gang territory. They went to all the main gangbangers and they said, hey, I don't know where it's coming from. I'm just moving it, bro. They went to Humble Park. They went all over Terror Town, Pocket Town, the Manor. They was all over West Side. Of course, they blame West Side for everything. These drugs are coming from the West Side. But things aren't always what they seem. See, the drugs were coming from two people. Two blonde-haired white girls. Two blonde white girls. I repeat, two blonde white girls that lived in the water tower downtown. People thought they were lesbians. And they were in the art world. Because they lived in a former actress's apartment. She was an actress in like the 1930s or 40s or something. And she used to live in the water tower before she died. So they keep her apartment just the same. They rented that place and stayed there. It was immaculate. These two women, to this day, they never had a clue that these two women were the biggest drug dealers in the history of this city and town and everything. They didn't know. Now you might say, well, how the hell does two blonde white girls in 1989 living downtown in the water tower apartments, living together, they dressed and people thought they were in the art world because they were above suspicion. If anybody would have looked close enough and followed them every day, you would have probably busted them. They were above suspicion. Oh, and it gets worse. It gets worse. Not only were they above suspicion, they were truly bringing in product. Constantly. Buses, trucks from different areas coming in, vans. They owned a transportation business, courier service, all of it. They had like 3, 4, 5 different carrier businesses. One, a copy place that delivers papers, right? So they had 6 to 7 different vans. All these vans, no paper has ever probably been bought or purchased from them. Everything was filled with drugs coming in different directions. Just like that. None of you have heard of these stories. I've watched every A&E, all of this. Nobody talks about it. Why? Because they don't know. Two white girls. Now, where did these white girls come from? They weren't from Chicago. They were planted there by drug lords. One white girl was from Lexington, Kentucky. Lexington, Kentucky. And she got into the drug racket because her boyfriend blew his arm off trying to make crystal meth in Lexington, Kentucky back in 1984. Trying to make crystal meth in 84. Can you believe that? Blew his arm off. She got introduced to a different group of people. Where she met an individual who trained her. How to handle business. Oh, yeah. So from Lexington, Kentucky, she went to Nebraska. She goes to Nebraska, the Cornhusker state, where she went to school, learned math, real good at math because of her helping her drug dealer, one-armed boyfriend. She paid her way through school, got a degree. Where she decided, I'm going to take this internship. Got an internship to go learn a foreign language. So she went to Columbia. And in Columbia, she met a Colombian man who fell in love with her blonde, beautiful hair, blue eyes, her smile. And while she's over there learning a foreign language, he was amazed at how smart she was and how good she was with numbers. And how the drug game didn't scare her, since she was involved in a small scale. Now, he's introducing her to a whole new life. So, her going there for a language class ended up turning out to be more than just a language class. Now it went from you learned the language, now you're gonna learn what we do. And she spent, about a year and a half in Colombia learning a language before she comes back to the United States. Exactly. Before she comes back to the United States. And I think she was in New York, mostly Florida, New York, and other towns over there before this Chicago move in 1989. Now, the other white girl, it's kind of sketchy. I don't know what actual town she came from, But this one was different. She wasn't really very talkative, wasn't very like friendly. She was mostly stoic, pretty much like a security guard or something. But she was short, blonde hair, brownish blonde, like what they would call a dirty blonde hair. Her makeup wasn't really covering the wrinkles on her face. She didn't care. Her hands was coarse, really rough. And her background doesn't really go back that far where people could guess anything from her. Only thing they remember is that she went to high school in Minnesota. And she finished high school in Minnesota. She graduated high school in Minnesota. She was in Minneapolis, Minnesota. That was about it. And since then, they don't know who she dated before, prior, whatever. Now, you might say, well, why didn't this ever come out? Like this information, why no one ever heard about these women? Why there's never been a story about these women? Well, let me explain to you why. Things are never what they seem. Now, these ladies also got into the political campaign. That's right. The political office, where judges, police officers, people were being bribed to turn the other cheek in the city of Chicago. It was said that they had influence over mayoral elections. They controlled probably about 80 to 90% in the city of all doggone major drugs coming through. Were overseen by two blonde white girls. Ooh, that's a stark reality, isn't it? It was like, what about the drugs from Mexico that comes in? Well, give or take, eh, that's a whole nother story. So we might have to cover that on the Patreon. But here's why you didn't hear about those stories. See, people thought assumed that they were lesbians because they lived together in that same place. They were supposed to live there to keep that profile. No one looked at them. They were never under any investigations. Then one woman ended up dating a federal agent who had a nose problem. Sniffy Jiffy drug addict. He's a federal agent. So he kept covering things up. Then this went to the Central Intelligence Agency, who had just formed in like the 70s. And so the Central Intelligence Agency started to say, hey, we need to investigate this because someone is mass producing our drugs and pushing it in areas and zones we don't approve of. See, the thing is, the CIA were the biggest drug dealers in the world, and somebody was stepping in on their territory. They were supposed to push it, and this was the West Coast, where the Bay Area was, and those housing areas, those were the test subjects. Oakland, the Bay, San Francisco, Oakland, that all that territory was the test area. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now they seeing that someone is mass producing their product and it's going out of zones. Zones meaning that they wanted to go to certain areas and it wasn't in reach. What's up, Chris? I see you. Yeah, it wasn't going to certain areas that they would like for it to go. They're like, look, we did this whole drug thing because we wanted to target these areas and it's not targeting these areas. We don't know why. And they going like, well, what you mean? Drugs are supposed to stay in these zones, and we got protections in place to make sure they don't have an outbreak in any of these other zones because this is a powerful drug. So now, in 1889, the drug is spread everywhere, and one of the central hubs was Chicago. Now, things decided it was going to get even more crazy. Well, they decided it was going to get even more crazy because the people that they put in place to handle things wasn't doing their jobs. They were failing. They were coming up short every single time. When there was an opportunity to make things happen and be successful, they chose the latter every single time. That's some of the times, not part of the time, every single time. So, while she's messing with the federal agent, who they got under the thumb, this federal agent pretty much knows these women and what they do and who they relate to and where they get the work and the product from in this nature. Now, the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, they find out information about the federal agent, which leads them to the two blonde girls. So now they feel like they're being double crossed by the people they're doing business with. But the CIA can't be seen doing business with these people. So they said, hey, this is going to work out as a win win. They told the federal agent first, you got to stop effing with them. So they got the blonde girls to stop effing with this federal agent and said, here's what we're going to do. You're going to work for us. We know what you're doing. And you've been doing a great job, except for you need to be policed. Keep the drugs flowing in the urban communities and make sure it does not get to the suburbs, the north. Stay in these areas and you make sure you have protections for that, or you all are going down. So we'll allow you to operate, but you report to us and tell your boss, your supplier, we want to know who he is and everything. So by then, CIA had the women working under them. Now, why haven't they ever told anybody about this? And in 1993, I believe it was 93, either 1993, the two blonde women mysteriously, after an event in Chicago, they was at the Art Institute of Illinois, Art Institute of Chicago. They had an event. The two blonde girls were there at the event. I believe it was 1993. And poof, gone. Didn't see them. They packed up everything out of their place. Nobody, nothing. They didn't. I guess they didn't rent the place anymore. They were out. They moved. They were never seen and heard from again. In 1993. What happened in 1993? I couldn't tell you. But those two blonde white girls disappeared and you never saw them again. Like, I don't know if the mob took them out. I don't know if the CIA took them out. I don't know if they fled, went to Colombia, went somewhere else. But whatever they did, they packed up after the art event and they got out of the city. Or they somewhere in the bottom of the ocean and they've been gone since 1993. So that's why you never heard from them. They said witness protection program. If they're in witness protection program, then hell, that was a hell of a way to put them in witness protection. But you never seen a movie on them. You never seen a story about them. You never heard a TV show about them. The only way you would know is you would really have to be plugged into the streets or know somebody that was really plugged into the streets to know that story. Oh no, because you think this is Patreon content. Mm-mm. Wait till you hear what's on the Patreon today. If you think this is something, Chris, wait till you hear what's coming on there today. When you see it, then you'll know it.